Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I would like to discuss the UFC substitutes. What do I mean by that? You see, when the UFC decides not to put on an event for the second Saturday in a row, kind of similar to times like this. Granted, this is only 1 week there's no event, but we've had 2 weeks before where there's been nothing. And before I let the depression creep into my soul and the darkness consume me, these are the organizations that I will watch before I go into that. We have everything from Streetbeefs to an ADCC grappling match. These are what I would call the optimal UFC substitutes. I'm going to be taking all of them, the few that there are, putting them into a tier list, from D tier being, I might actually take the depression before I watch you, to there's really no S tier. I have the S tier is UFC because I'm sorry, that is the creme de la creme of combat sports, and I won't be afraid to glaze it a little bit. Little intro is out of the way. Please consider a like, comment, subscribe. We're about at 10,000 subscribers. In fact, odds are we probably already are at 10K by the time you're watching this. If we haven't already, you better fucking subscribe. Okay, with that little threat out of the way, let's get started. Number one, UFC. Listen, this is what I mean. I'm gonna turn up the brightness on this bits. UFC. It's the UFC S tier. I'm sorry. People are really saying that the UFC is a monopoly because it is not a competition when you compare it to ONE FC and PFL Bellator. Yes, I'm calling PFL Bellator, and I will be roasting PFL. And I want to start off this analogy really quick. What makes the UFC great, if you haven't seen these other MMA organizations? They have not just the greatest talent. They have the best marketing. They have the best commentary. They have the best presentation outside of maybe one other organization, but even that organization's missing something. If I had to make an analogy that I'm going to be using comparing it to all the other ones, the UFC is like a succulent, beautifully seasoned, marinated chicken breast. I'm talking, it has everything, bro. Like chicken, when you cook it without seasoning, when you fucking boil it, salt and pepper, it's ass, bro. Nobody likes chicken like that. The UFC, if it was a chicken breast, would be the most succulent piece of meat ever. Pause. Chicken breast ever. That's the analogy I'm going to start here. Now we go over to ONE FC. ONE FC is like if you boiled your chicken, but you put a little bit of that Montreal chicken seasoning that you got from Walmart. Put that straight on top. Boom. Flip it over. Maybe you do a little bit of a butter baste on the other side. And then boom. That is your ONE FC. It is a lightly seasoned chicken breast. That is the analogy for ONE FC. What does ONE FC have that, in my mind, could compare it to the UFC? Their presentation is goated. I like the ONE FC presentation. The way that they just go absolutely fucking wild when they're introducing, I shit you not, Mikey Musumeci, Dark Rigatoni. I'm not kidding you. His nickname is actually Darth Rigatoni. He's like a... If you haven't seen Mikey Musumeci grapple, all you really need to know, he looks like the nerd that you would see in high school that you'd be really worried if he dove down too quick for his backpack. That's a USA joke right there. Or, something really crazy would happen if he had a bad day. But turned into one of the greatest grapplers the world has ever seen. As of right now, he does their grappling matches. And that's another thing I love that the ONE FC does. ONE FC will do MMA fights, Muay Thai, kickboxing, and grappling matches all in one singular event, and they have different belts for each of those. I like that. I think the UFC should do something fairly similar eventually. I do know Dana White has hinted that, granted, this is not super confirmed. This is just something that Dana White has historically played with. He wants to do a ADCC competition. He wants to be a competitor to ADCC in the future and have grappling events that would go on in tandem with a UFC event. But we've heard no news on that after 2 years, and I'm really excited of that because I am a huge grappling fan. Just saying. ONE FC's already ahead of them on that. The presentation's pretty good. The commentary just isn't yet. Like, the talent, everybody's pretty much really foreign. They're not really, like, charismatic like they are in the UFC. Like, their social media game is better than the UFC. I will say that right now. ONE FC probably has the greatest social media game in combat sports right now. And if there's no UFC on, I will watch the PFL. If the UFC disappeared, I would be a ONE FC fan. I will say that right now. And if you have an Amazon Prime account, this is not sponsored. If you have an Amazon Prime account, you can watch all of their events for free because they don't do pay-per-views. That is the future of combat sports, I'm telling you. A tier. Next up, PFL. You see, when I said the UFC is like a succulent chicken breast that was marinated for a day and cooked by an absolute Michelin-starred chef, and ONE FC is like a lightly seasoned Montreal chicken breast that maybe was butter basted like twice, but it's pretty good like your mama's cooking. PFL is a fucking boiled chicken. It is bland, flavorless, disappointing, depressing-inducing MMA. I am going to surprise a lot of people with the placement of this. I might actually I'm putting it in C tier. There are things that aren't even MMA, that I would rather watch before a PFL event. PFL, the commentary shit, most of the fights are pretty bad outside of a few, like Pitbull Alves. But outside of a few matchups, they're ass, bro. They would have gone out of business if they didn't bribe the king of Saudi Arabia into investing into it. You think I'm joking? No, the king of Saudi Arabia invested it was either 150, 160 million dollars into the PFL because they wanted to create a competitor to the UFC. The whole reason that ESPN is even invested into the PFL is because they didn't want to look like the UFC is a monopoly, even though it is, and they keep the PFL and ONE FC around purely because they don't want to be a monopoly and get broken up. The UFC is the NFL, and the PFL is basically Little League. They have good people, but I'm telling you this right now. The dream of every PFL fighter right now is to be a contender in the UFC. Not even be a UFC champion. I'm going to take a hardline stance. The PFL fighters, I don't know why people get butthurt whenever Joe Rogan says it. Every PFL champion right now, their dream is when they grow up, they want to be a contender in the UFC. Every UFC champion wants to stay a UFC champion. PFL fighters dream about making it into the UFC. It is a crime, dude. PFL, it's just so bad. Their commentary's bad. The production value's really bad. It feels like I'm stuck in 2003 watching a UFC event. It is that bad. And I would argue the UFC in 2003 had it down almost to a science by then because they knew commentary and production value was going to get a lot of people in. PFL hasn't learned. Bellator was better than the PFL. And we got Bellator over here, and I'm going to surprise a lot of people with that placement too. PFL C tier, barely misses D tier. Next up, boxing. B tier. I will watch a ONE FC fight before I watch a boxing match. But I'll watch a boxing match before I watch PFL. I am an MMA fan through and through. But at least boxing, doesn't insult your intelligence as much as the PFL does. I cannot watch the PFL. It annoys me to absolutely zero end, and I feel bad for every single UFC fighter that is in that roster. You are part of a puppet company that is solely around because the UFC doesn't want to be a monopoly. Okay, I'm done talking about Bellator. Boxing's self-explanatory, dude. Boxing is good. I have said it time and time again. People think I hate boxing. No. The sport of boxing is beautiful. I love the sport of boxing. There comes a point when you're talking about like a Canelo Alvarez, a Bivol, a Usyk, an Andy Ruiz, a Tyson Fury, and Anthony Joshua, where boxing is an art form. It transcends combat and goes into an art form. Like that sounds like deep and shit, but anybody who's like trained in a combat sport and they've seen the highest level of it, you know what I mean by see the highest level? Bro, you just gotta watch Canelo Alvarez fight. And you'll be like, dude, that's a different level of awesome right there. It's an art form. And that's what I love about professional boxing. Now, what I hate about boxing and why it is missing out of A tier, boxing is so ridiculously corrupt in every which way. Like they are so aware that they could give you almost nothing and you will still pay for it. I think boxing is insulting to your wallet, not to your intelligence. Every once in a while, they'll put out a banger card, but that's like once every 3 months. The UFC, I'll say this. Boxing will put out a great card once every 6 months. The UFC will put out a great card once every 2 to 3 months. The UFC just hits different. I'm going to put it B tier. Streetbeefs. Yeah, I will take Streetbeefs over the PFL. The PFL is garbage. It just is. Streetbeefs, it's good garbage. It is like... to keep up with the chicken breast argument, Streetbeefs is like the, what would be? It's like the chicken salad of MMA. It is okay. It's cold. It lacks a little bit of the oomph factor, but damn, do you just like chilling out and watching it every once in a while. And the commentary. They don't have commentary because they're aware what they are. My favorite commentators for Streetbeefs, it's the big three for me. You get these three in a lineup, I will pay pay-per-view price to watch it. Demetrius Johnson, hear me out. Demetrius Johnson, Steven Strangles, and Skets. If you get Skets, Steven Strangles, and Demetrius Johnson at a desk doing the commentary for a Streetbeefs event, have that be like a live stream on Twitch, Kick, whatever the fuck, I will pay actual money to watch this. It is goated content if you get the right commentator, and they realize that having a commentator, not having a commentator in their matchups and having people watch it is infinitely more entertaining than having them have their own bum-ass commentary. Like, show of hands, I might actually consider doing fight companions with new Streetbeefs episodes. Like, I am that entertained by Streetbeefs. I might do my own reaction and commentary for these. Go in the comment section if you want something like that, because that is legitimately something I am considering, because I love commentating, and Streetbeefs is just gold. Streetbeefs B tier. Yep, it's above PFL in my mind. ADCC grappling. This one is purely up to my taste. I wouldn't even consider where I put this one because I understand not everybody likes grappling. I am what you would call a crotch sniffer. I enjoy grappling. I do. I enjoy... Now, what I mean by I enjoy grappling, I enjoy fast-paced grappling. If I had to get people into watching professional grappling, these are the names that you should be looking up. Andy Valeria. Watch him, dude. He's so good. Every single match that he does is, I think, earns a bonus. Also, he's the dude that submitted Sarn Strickland in a grappling event, just saying. J-Rod, the younger brother of Nicky Rod, really entertaining guy. Mika Galvao is another good one. And Craig Jones is a fun one. Gordon Ryan can be boring sometimes. Of course, watch Gordon Ryan. But those are the guys that if you want to get into watching professional grappling and it be exciting, those would be the names that I would advocate for you. And all of those guys grapple at ADCC. And I will be doing an ADCC open event later this year. I'm back in the training and it's feeling good to get back in the competition. I like professional grappling. ADCC, that's where it's at. In terms of where I would put it, this is my personal opinion, but if there's no UFC on, I will watch this over the PFL. I will watch an ADCC grappling event before I watch an MMA fight in the PFL. But that's my personal opinion. I understand why if you would put ADCC, not even on this list, but that's just me. Next up, Sepper Invicta, the one where it's only women, D tier. Who would have thought that was a bad idea? I think I've seen one Sepper Invicta matchup, and it was like a free, well, who am I kidding? They're all free matchups on YouTube. And it was like Chris Cyborg, I believe? I don't even remember who was fighting. I was just bored, and it is what it is. It is like the, if PFL is an unseasoned chicken breast, this is the chicken that has salmonella. It is just, by all accounts, bad. Bad commentary, bad production value, they have bad filming angles in Sepper Invicta. It just doesn't hit. The referee, bum. A lot of the fighters are bums, outside of a few that make it to the UFC. But it's a backwater organization. That's what it is. PFL is barely above them. I will watch a PFL event before I watch a Sepper Invicta. Who would have thought? Put in the comment section if you've ever seen a Sepper Invicta matchup. Genuinely. Wait. Sepper Invicta. Holy shit, I was quoting a Fallout line. Invicta FC. Holy shit. That's why I hate it so much. D tier. Bro, rip. Before you call me a casual. You know what? Call me a casual if I get Sepper Invicta or Invicta FC wrong. I don't care. You can call me a casual with Invicta FC. Bellator MMA. B tier. I would put Bellator, Prime Bellator, honestly, A tier. Prime Bellator was the only competition to the UFC. If we're doing prime for prime, PFL was never at a point where I thought of it as a legit competitor to the UFC, and that's just facts. Bellator, at its absolute height, was a good competitor. It was Bellator, Strikeforce, Pride FC. Pride FC got bought by the UFC, and then the UFC had to choose between Strikeforce and Bellator. Strikeforce had a better roster, but bad production value overall. Overall. They had a few good production values, but overall. The UFC bought Strikeforce and they left Bellator out to dry because what the UFC thought is if they bought Pride and they bought Strikeforce, that roster together with the production value of the UFC, they were going to outdo Bellator, and they ended up did. So PFL comes out of nowhere, and with the $170 million that was gifted to them by that Saudi Arabian family, they bought Bellator, so that's why people call PFL PFLator. Bellator just got thrown to the wayside. They could have competed, and they just dropped the ball. That's the brutal reality of it. And in fact, I believe Donald Trump wanted to buy Bellator. Like, there was a weird thing where Donald Trump was involved in MMA. Trump and Dana White actually used to be competitors in this because he tried to start his own MMA organization. That failed. Like, I'm sorry. MMA, getting into the sport of MMA and starting a business has to be one of the hardest things you can do. And Dana White ended up winning in the very end. That's why there's a weird connection between Trump and the UFC. Because Trump was a competitor to the UFC a long time ago. And finally, all of the Russian shit. Dude. Russia. Dude. The Russian people are a combat sports people. I have to give them that, dude. They are a warrior culture. Same thing with a lot of people from the Caucasus region, Dagestan, Georgia. You guys are all kind of in that same family of like a fighting culture. And y'all will come up with some of the most creative things I have ever heard. Russian group fighting. I know it didn't start there. I know that's like a weird Italian thing. Russian group fighting is dope. It just is. I don't care. Russian group fight is goated. What's another one? Underwater jiu-jitsu, car jiu-jitsu, one man, two women, one fat woman versus two skinny men, the weird freak show shit that they do, the MMA events where I swear people get into fights every single time they enter into a press conference together, all absolutely goated content that is like the clown show of MMA. And yeah, I will watch a Russian, let me tell you, I'm going to put it in the bottom of B tier. Let me explain to you my order of operations when I watch combat sports. I will watch any UFC content that is available. And then if there's no UFC on, I will see if there's a 1FC event. If there's no 1FC event, I would have watched Prime Bellator. If there's none of these, I will watch boxing. If it's in the middle of the afternoon and I see Demetrius Johnson, Steven Strangles, or Skets did a commentary video with the Streetbeefs, then I'll watch Streetbeefs. If there's none of that, I'll watch a random Russian MMA link. And then if there's none of that, I'll watch an ADCC grappling match. Or if I'm in camp and I have to actually study, then I'll go over some ADCC guard passing and submissions. And then after that, I'll do PFL. And then that one time, actually I'll take depressant over watching Invicta FC. And there you go. That is a little tier list of the UFC substitutes. I'm aware there's no Muay Thai, no kickboxing. The fact is outside of Glory, there isn't. I haven't been able to get that high from a Muay Thai organization outside of 1FC. I'm sorry, 1FC has kickboxing and Muay Thai, and they are my supplier of that as of right now. It used to be Glory. Glory's kind of in a weird spot right now. But there you go. That's going to be it for my tier list of UFC substitutes. So tell me something that you think that's missing. What's something that you watch if there's no UFC on? And again, thank you guys for your like, comment, subscribes. And we're about to get to 10,000. Thank you, everybody, and I will see you all next time. Adios.